Welcome to another episode of the Shifting Your Atmosphere podcast, where we talk about the good, the bad, the ugly, and the indifferent, about what it takes to truly become the best version of ourselves. And of course, you back with me, your host, Kay Simone. And today we're going to talk about something that's a little spare of the moment, but that's okay because we're going through life, real life things in real time. So it's okay for us to pivot and talk about something that comes up on the fly. But today, let's talk about being disappointed. Like, what is disappointment? Why do we feel disappointment? What brings on the disappointment? How we can navigate disappointment and how we can build up boundaries to avoid disappointment. All those things come together, and I'm a guess if you're human, you've experienced some version of one of these. You've been disappointed, you've disappointed someone, you've struggled with disappointment. And it's not something that I ever believe is intentional because nobody just wakes up or goes into any type of situation and like, I want to disappoint someone today. I just want to allow someone to disappoint me today. Like that is never ever the case. But some way, somehow, we all still deal with disappointment to some degree. Some of us repetitively, some of us very, lightly, superficially. Some of us are so tight that we're trying to avoid disappointment so much. Like we don't even give ourselves a chance to even see if we may possibly get a different outcome than disappointment because we're so tight and we're like, absolutely not. I've been disappointed enough. I've dealt with disappointment enough and it's a never again for me, right? So press pause, go grab a friend and come back and let's go ahead and talk about this episode. Okay, so if you got a phone, if you got access to the internet, of course you can Google what disappointment is. But I'm gonna tell y'all what disappointment has been to me. Disappointment to me has been an ongoing cycle, right? I have felt disappointed in so many ways by so many people. And essentially, what it is you feel let down. Like you feel as if someone couldn't show up for you in the way you feel like they should, right? So if I don't get my child something that they wanted, they may feel disappointment. They can mask it with a whole lot of other emotions, like I'm sad, I'm angry, I'm all these things. But what they truly are is disappointed. They had an expectation or a desire or a want, and I didn't meet that. Now, I was cool with disappointment from that point of view, right? But disappointment for me started to take an ugly turn when I felt as if I was let down in areas of my needs, right? And it's a difference in not getting what you want and not receiving what you need, and not receiving what you need from people that you feel as if should not be letting you down in these areas, right? So, same thing with a child. A child thinks, you know, my parents should X, Y, and Z. My parents should show up. My parents should this. My parents should that. Because they have an expectation of we're going to do everything or we should do each and everything. And sometimes we're not able to. And that's where disappointment for a genuine purpose has its own place. However, a lot of people seem to overlook that whether or not the level of disappointment was intentional, it does not erase the feelings that the person that was disappointed or will feel. It does not take it away. It does not erase it. And it still requires being addressed, right? To whatever degree. Like whether y'all gonna talk it out, whether there's gonna be, an explanation, whether that person has to come within themselves and settle out the disappointment. It doesn't matter how the disappointment has to be addressed, but it has to be addressed. Otherwise, it festers and it builds and it sits in there. It turns into resentment. It turns into, retaliation. It turns into bitterness. It turns into, trauma. to where you go and you bleed on somebody else because of how someone else treated you. It could turn and rear its ugly head in a lot of ways. And I experienced that personally when I felt as if my needs weren't being met. And to the fact that I said that there were probably genuine reasons in my life where these people, various people throughout life, friends, family, romantic, platonic relationships, all types of people, I felt disappointed by. And as I went through therapy, one of the biggest things that she brought up to me around me always repeating that I was disappointed, I was let down, was that I was allowing myself to be disappointed. So I had to learn how to accept the role that I played in my own disappointment. And I'm like, girl, what do you mean? I didn't do nothing to me. I didn't tell them not to show up. I didn't show up for them and they didn't show up for me. Like, I didn't facilitate all this happening, right? So I'm really like, girl, where are you going with this? Because really, I ain't saying need a new therapist, but I'm saying I might get a second opinion. You know what I mean? Because it's like when you're going through therapy, it is not a joke that they're going to tell you things you don't want to hear. They're going to push you in ways and challenge you in ways you're not ready to deal with. So when she kept coming back at me like, okay, but what was your part to play? Okay, but how did you allow this to happen? Okay. I'm like, girl, we're talking about me too much, okay? I told you let's talk about them, how they did me and how they let me down. And she was like, I get it. I get it. I understand. Your feelings are valid. I'm reassuring you. I'm validating your feelings. I am letting you be seen. I'm letting you know that you're heard. But what about your part to play in in how you allowed this to happen? You know that little old saying, fool me once, disappoint me once. I shame on you. Disappoint me twice, shame on me. And what she was essentially getting at is you're not establishing boundaries, Kiana. You're not standing on those boundaries, Kiana. You're not learning your lesson and learning how to see how one situation went in either you're course correcting yourself or you're course correcting the facilitation of the environment or situation or relationship. And I wasn't doing it. I wasn't. So if someone hurt me or disappointed me in one type of way, I just kept putting it back in the same mode to do it again. So I was being ignorant by thinking, hey, they did this before. They've already shown me how they're going to move about this. They've already shown me, how they act about this. They've already shown me the disappointment in this area. They ain't going to do it again. They not key. Okay, one time. Give one more chance, right? Because they might do right. If you on a 50, 11, 2,500,000 chance, baby, who in the wrong now? Huh? Who in the wrong now? Because yes, you can keep go telling somebody. That's like, y'all ever having people in your life that keep coming to you about the same thing over and over and over, but refuse to do something about it. And you get a little winded and you're a little tired and you're a little sorry if it's offends somebody, but you almost become a little numb to the situation. And that's just the honest truth. You become a little numb because you know you're going to say all this stuff and then you're going to still do the same thing. I don't think we become numb because we don't care, but I think we become numb because we know what the outcome's gonna be. We know you're going back. We know you're gonna do this again. We know it's gonna happen again. We know the lesson when it's the outside looking in, right? We can look at somebody else's life and point and point and point and pick it. Girl, I wouldn't do that. Girl, you crazy for letting it happen again. But what about when it's you? What about when, whether you admit it or not, and that's another thing, if you may not even outwardly tell nobody, so people can't know, but somebody that's outwardly constantly repeating what they're going through, they're not afraid or ashamed or whatever it may be to outwardly say it, but you're not going to say it again. But the same thing is going on with you. Or what if it's not, a relationship? What if it's family? Like, what if you're allowing family to disappoint you over and over and over again? And I mean, to the point that it's affecting you in your life. Like for me, it was affecting me in my everyday life. It was affecting my mental. I was allowing people to do the thing that they always would do over and over and over and over and over and over again. And then kept being like, this is what they're doing. Why are they doing this? I can't understand this. This is how it's affecting me. And one day, my therapist just got real. I don't know. She stepped outside her education of her license and was just like, you realize you could just remove access from there, right? You realize you could just stop, putting yourself in that same situation, right? You realize you can walk away from those type of conversations, right? You realize you can, and it's like, girl, she was making me mad, y'all. She was making me mad. I think it's one of our hardest therapy sessions because she was making me mad, and I was finna really. It was a little while ago, y'all. So I was really finna crash out on her, and I ain't gonna lie. But it wasn't because I was angry at her. It's because I'm like, girl, you keep asking me the same thing and I keep telling you the same thing. So obviously I don't have a different answer. So I mean my time that's paid here is almost up and you keep asking me the same thing and that's just not gonna work for me because I got buckets of things to unload about other things to you today in the same session. And you keep on talking about this. But she kept at it and she kept at it and she kept at it. And by the time we left that session, we didn't even have no resolution yet. We did. But what it did was it sent me home to sit by myself. It sent me home to pray. It sent me home to journal. And it sent me home to sit within myself and start to evaluate my life and those type of situations that I was going through. And like, I think I even went so far as to write out as if like, something of a, play by play of each situation, what happened, how it was going to occur, what was said, what was next, I just spilled it all out, right? And then it clicked. I got what she meant, y'all. I understood. She was trying to tell me to stop allowing myself to be disappointed. And before she could ever even give me any tools or any type of methods on how to cope with that or how to handle that and navigate that, she had to get me to realize I was doing it. So I'm going to ask God what she asked me today. If you are dealing or have dealt with in the past disappointment, or you're even dealing with the effects post disappointment, like the things that come up extra after disappointment. If you're dealing with any of that, I'm gonna ask you the same thing she asked me. What is your part that you have played or you're continuing to play in allowing the constant disappointment? Because you might not even recognize this when you're like, Key, nah, I'm not disappointed. I'm angry. Nah, Key, I'm not disappointed. I'm sad. I'm hurt. I'm this, I'm that. You may label it some other things and feel like it's not disappointment. But I can almost bet money that it started at disappointment. Some type of expectation that you had, want, desire for that person, for that relationship, it doesn't matter. That expectation was not met. Whether that's because you didn't open your mouth, was because the person didn't hold capacity, whether that was because of just, somebody just was hurt people hurt people. You know what I mean? It don't really matter why, but I can almost guarantee you it's because you were disappointed. And you allowed. I know, y'all. I know. Don't be mad at me for this episode, y'all. And don't, unsubscribe and be mad. But we're here to talk about real things, right? Okay. But that disappointment, unaddressed, either kept happening or built into something else. As always, admitting the situation is the first step, right? I'm gonna be y'all therapist in a minute for free, okay? Because it's gonna cost you nothing. But I did therapy with my therapist plenty, multiple times a week back in the day, to be able to give y'all this for free, okay? So this question is to get you to start to think and assess and become self-aware of anywhere this sits in your life, whether you've dealt with it or maybe you're the disappointer, okay? Let's just be real. You might not feel none of those emotions because you're the one out here disappointing people. You're the one out here not reciprocating energy. You're the one out here not reciprocating when someone else shows up for you. You're not reciprocating in a relationship. You're not reciprocating in showing up for people. You're not checking on your people. You're not keeping your word. You're not showing up when you said that you would. You're not paying people back when you borrow money. You're not doing what you're supposed to be doing. If that's you, I'm gonna pray for you. I'm gonna pray for you. Not for me, but for the people you disappoint because everybody ain't turning up cheek at you. Let's be real. Some of the people gonna make you feel what you're doing. It ain't gonna be nothing I can do about it. But I want you to still watch in this episode because maybe you will start to see how you're affecting people. Or maybe you'll even start to piece two and two together to say, you know what? Am I doing the same thing to someone else that someone did to me? And I understand how it feels to be disappointed, but now I'm out here pouring that energy out into someone else. Now I'm out here doing the very same thing that was done to me, even though I know I don't like it, even though I'm hot and mad calling my friend about how someone let me down, and then I'm out here doing to other people just because somebody did to me. Like pouring, like projecting that energy and keep sharing it and pushing it on and on and on is 1000% not okay and 1000% not healthy. So we're going to stop there right now and we're going to pause and take a break in a minute to process whether you're the offender or you're the receiver and then what part you might play in that and why you think about it. Let's go ahead and head over to the fashion corner. Welcome to another episode of the Style by K Simone's Fashion Corner, where every episode, we gotta do a fit check. So let's go ahead and start from the top. The God is Dope hat, basic earrings, jewelry, my K Simone necklace, of course, my Amazon staples that I have. This business casual shirt is from Express. It's cut on the sides and it hangs in the back. These jeans are the Rockstar High Rise Stretch from Old Navy. My favorite braided sandal heel for spring and summer. You never gonna catch me without them on at least a couple times a week in summer because they don't hurt my feet. I think I honestly originally got them in store somewhere, but I found the pair on Amazon, so they will be linked. You already know that. Now, what y'all think about today's fit check? I think it's giving chill, preppy vibes. What y'all think about today's fit check? Okay, let's get back to the episode. Did y'all like today's outfit? It's doing something different. It's doing something different. I like to mix a little things together. But let's go and get back into the episode, okay? So, we understand what my version of disappointment is, what my explanation of disappointment is, and how I feel it can affect everybody. Okay, no matter who you are, no matter how old you are, no matter if you're a male, a female, a mama, a daddy, it don't matter. A sister, auntie, a cousin, a grandma. It can affect all of us. And you can also be an offender or on the receiving end. And most of us, we both, okay? You've offended somebody, you've disappointed somebody and you've been disappointed, right? But we know, thanks to my therapist, that the first step in trying to address this type of emotion or this type of situations, these type of situations in our life, is stop focusing on what occurred, not because we're not validating that, but stop focusing on that and let's reel back in and redirect and refocus our mind on what part did we play in. Let's focus on us because we can't change nobody else. We can't address nobody else in a way that will make them do anything. We can holler and scream and fight all day, but that's not going to do anything. And what we do to someone else does not affect how we handle our life. So we're worried about making sure we're our best self. We're choosing us. We're healing and growing and maturing and shifting our mindset for us. So that's why we're focusing on what part did we play. Now, I hope you had a little moment to think about it. If you don't, pause the episode, come back to us, okay? Or write it down and think about it later and come back. But if you've had time to think about it or you've already addressed that in your life before, Now we can move on, right? So after she had me sit there and think about it, she drilled me about what was my part that I had to play in allowing myself to constantly be disappointed over and over again. I sat down, I went through, I thought about it, it clicked in my head, and then we went back to therapy again. This time that I could be aware of that I did have a part to play, she went on to, why are you doing whatever said behavior to continue to allow this? So I had to think and I had to dig deep. And one of the deepest places that I had to dig deep in was, why was I allowing myself to be disappointed when it came to love, right? And I don't just mean romantic, like in a relationship with a man or anything like that, but I mean in general. Anywhere that I loved someone, or I felt they should love me, I kept allowing myself to be disappointed. And so the conclusion we came to in that whole situation was that I had a certain expectation that I set around love, right? Because of what I thought in my mind should be love. Now, this did stem from some childhood situations that where I didn't feel like I was loved in a certain kind of way, but there was, voids and gaps in the way that I was handled and loved as a kid, and some way, somehow, due to that, I made up in my head what it should look like, right? Or based off movies, I watched a lot of romantic movies and a lot of love or family movies and things like that, and as a kid or just young adult that's not very seasoned in life and doesn't understand that life does a lot of different things and it's not a movie, that I created in my brain, in my mind, what love would be, what it would look like. And when anyone didn't meet that measure, I felt internally disappointed. And I feel that it's important to explain it that way, because what a lot of us will do, or what our mind will tell us that feels like, is that people don't love us, that people are doing us wrong, that people are doing certain things. And I always felt that. Now, there are some situations in my life that were very real, that were very factual, but there was also a big expectation that I had set based off the idea of love that I created in my head. And when people didn't live up to that, I felt extremely hurt, extremely disappointment, extremely disappointed. And that led to a lot of other internal things like, why am I not enough? Why am I not being loved the way that I love people? Because I was trying to love on and show the people in a way, in that same way that I had made up in my head that of what love would be. So I didn't understand, like, why are they not, doing this? Like, why are they not, doing all the things that are in the movies? Like, I'm not understanding why it's not one big happy family. I'm not understanding why it's not, the friends that are through thick and thin, like this, that, and the third, and they stay together. I'm not understanding what's going on. And truly, it was because I had unrealistic expectations for said people. I wasn't giving space for people to be human, and I was internalizing people being humans. So imagine being disappointed in real life for real valid reasons, and then constantly putting yourself in situations that pretty much orchestrated the environment for me to be disappointed again and again and again and again. So it's like, it's in my brain, like I don't really got better words for it at the moment, but it's almost like a form of self-sabotage. Like, I don't know, I just came to my mind, but if let's just say the floor wet, right? Somebody spills some on the floor. You walk by, your sock got a little wet. Now you're aware that the floor is wet, your sock got wet, right? You should have learned the lesson. And for some reason you gotta walk that way again and the floor is still wet. Wouldn't you avoid it? Or wouldn't you move to a different area, a different path, go somewhere else? No. If you walk the same way that you already know is going to get your sock wet and you walk that way again and you think your sock not going to get wet again, now you're upset because, or disappointed because your socks are wet 2 times, right? If you keep doing that and now your socks are soaking wet, whose fault is it? Right, it's yours. But you know what we could do? We could blame, why nobody ain't clean up the floor? Why is somebody wasting on the floor anyway? That's all cool. We not talking about them. We talking about us. Why are you still walking in the direction of the wet floor? Why are you still stepping on the wet floor? Why are you not walking around it? Why are you not taking a different route? Why didn't you go on to the other side of the room? Why are you not doing certain things? And if it's completely unavoidable, cool. But at that point, you could have took initiative to try to clean up a little bit. You could have took initiative to put some shoes on. You could have did something to protect you or avoid it. But if you didn't, and you went back over there by the floor, expecting the floor to not be wet, expecting the floor to do something different than it already has proven that it's going to do, that you already know that it's going to be like, it's always going to be the same, that's a very dumbed down metaphor, example around how I was putting myself in the same positions with unrealistic expectations that something was going to be different. And let me tell you, every single one of them situations would remain the same over and over and over and over again. And I continue to feel disappointed the same way, the same way. And some of them I let fester, some of them I let grow, some of them we had to go round and round about. But nothing changed until my mindset about it did. Nothing changed until I accepted that I had a part to play. I stepped into, okay, I'm aware now that I have a part to play in this. Now that I've become aware of that, why am I doing it? So you ask the person, why are you still walking over the running water? Your sock already got wet. Why are you doing it? And if they just like, because I like this seat, I like this air, I like this side. Okay, so what are you going to do about it? If you just must go over there, what are you going to do to change that? So for me, what are you going to do to protect yourself in that situation? What are you going to do as far as boundaries to create? What are you going to do? Are you going to put shoes on? Are you going to clean the floor? Are you going to walk around? What are you going to do now that we at this point in the process? What are you going to do? So I had to sit there and think about, what am I going to do? Why was I doing that? And it was because I had unhealthy expectations around love. Why did you have the unhealthy expectations around love? Because I felt unloved in other certain situations, and because I was longing for the love so much, I kept putting expectations on people, still trying to grasp at the opportunity that they would get it right. Grasp the opportunity that something would be different. Grasp at the opportunity that something would change. Grasp at, you know, that even once I start to grow my relationship with God, grasp at that if I was giving grace and grace and grace and grace and love and trying to be like God and be in his image, that it was going to change people. That it was going to all of a sudden, like, I can't be disappointed because God, I'm doing what you said, I'm being nice. I'm doing what you said, I'm giving them another chance. I'm doing what you said, I'm forgiving them, I'm doing what you said. Yeah, it was tough. It was hard because there's so many different ways to deal with this. And every single time I kept hitting a brick wall or hitting a cycle, and I mean relentlessly, I was repeating a cycle of this. And I'm like, why? So when I realized it was about love, when I realized I was being disappointed, let's go back. When I realized I was constantly experiencing disappointment because I had a part to play in how I was allowing it. And then I had to come to the realization that I was allowing to be myself to be in the same environment, to be disappointed again and again because I was longing for love. And the reason I was longing for that love, because I had unrealistic expectations about love or towards love towards these people. And the reason I was setting those is because I had created those unrealistic expectations in my mind in my younger years because of something I felt like I was missing, or I had a void in certain kind of areas of what I thought should happen based off movies, based off other people's family, based off things I didn't know and I didn't understand at that time. But I held on to that so tightly that then I put those expectations on other people. So that's like, y'all know we see movies where somebody's standing outside in the rain with the boom box trying to get that girl back, right? So if you date a person and y'all, argue or have a situation or a confrontation or anything, and he not outside, you like, mm. Baby, he might just text you. He might just call you. He might not stand outside in the rain with the boom box and, do all that. He might not be that dramatic, but that don't mean he not sorry. That don't mean, you need to internalize disappointment about something that may happen or may not, but it is not a measure of whether someone loves you or not. It is not a measure of whether someone is positive or negative towards you or not. It is not a measure of the quality of love that is present for you, romantic, friendship wise, or anything, if they do not do a specific thing. Now, it's one thing if they're harming you, it's one thing if they're intentionally hurting you. We're not talking about that. That could be a totally different episode because those things are valid. And those things can cause you to be very hesitant or create those unrealistic expectations, positively or negatively, because you can have such low expectations that you allow so much to happen to you that's outrageously ridiculous, okay? So you can be on the positive spectrum that's unrealistic in one way. You can also be on unrealistic expectations because they're way bottom bare minimum. You could be on either extreme. My personal experience when it came to the one that was the largest in my life and the one that affected me the most was love. And so I had to learn how to create boundaries. So if you're dealing with this, if you have dealt with this, I'm going to suggest to you what was suggested to me, creating boundaries. You have to create boundaries around people and properly place them in your life. So if you've been disappointed to any degree, rightfully or wrongfully, you want to create a boundary. And I'm not going to start the boundary on the people. I'm going to start a boundary with you. And this may sound a little crazy, this may sound a little weird, but you need to create an internal boundary that says no matter what anyone outwardly does, I'm not going to allow it to inwardly affect me, my opinion of me, my love towards me, my relationship with myself. Like, I'm not going to let it wreck me. And because that's one of the biggest things, like, I internalized the disappointment. I could have just said, I'm disappointed. I wish it went another way and moved on, right? But I didn't do that. I analyzed it. I overthought it. I made it mean something about me that made it mean something about beyond what it was. And that, like I said, stems from childhood situations. So, of course, as I'm going through this and learning about disappointment, I'm also trying to heal childhood wounds, childhood trauma, all those kind of things. But they don't have to be that deep. You got to figure out what it is for you. But this is what it was for me. I just wanted to be loved so much that I created it, what I thought love would be. And if people didn't live up to that, I was disappointed. And it wasn't until I began to build my own relationship with God and learn and start to love on myself, allow Him to teach me what love was, and allow Him to show me how to love on myself, and then me love on my children, that I truly began to understand and have a proper level of expectation around love. So now, in today's time, if today someone does something they probably did 3-4 years ago, I wouldn't be disappointed. I would make it to say, oh, well, they didn't show up for me, so that means no one loves me. No, you love you. No, God loves you. No, someone probably does still love you. However, they may still have care for you or whatever, but you may not need to have them as, a top level of people in your life if they don't have the capacity to show up for you the same way that you show up for them. And that's okay. I can love people from afar. I don't have to be locked in and intertwined with every single person that I meet or I care for in life. I don't have to be like that with every single person. And I don't have to have an expectation on them that if they're not like that to constantly allow myself to be disappointed. Because if I'm always calling on the person that never shows up because I want them to show up for me in a certain kind of way, and I see that they can't, but I keep calling them for everything. I keep trying to put the expectation of them to show up for me when I know they probably won't, just so that at the end of whatever I want them to show up for, they don't, and I can be sad or disappointed. I'm putting myself in that situation. I'm putting myself in that predicament. Let's just say let somebody borrow some money, right? If they didn't pay you back the $10, they didn't, and then you said, all right, I can stand to lose $10. They asked you for $50. You gave $50 because they had a whole situation and need that 50. Okay. They didn't pay you back for that. They came back and asked you now for $200. And it's real vital, it's real important, it's real urgent. Okay, now you up 260 that you lost, right? We get in the fourth time, right? Now you give them $1,000. And they swear they're gonna pay it back because they know you need it, but in your mind, in your heart, you're like, I know they need it and I can spare it right now, but I'm gonna need it back by X, Y, and Z kind of day because then, that was part of my sales, part of my, it don't matter what, but you want your money back. You need it back, right? And you give it out. This person that didn't pay you back 3 times, each time the price increased that you gave them. And this time you've given enough money away that you need it back, right? And you're expecting them to give it back to you, right? Your expectation of a person who didn't pay you back the money the last 3 times is that now you're going to give them an amount of money that you have no wiggle room for receiving back, as if their track record has shown that they're going to pay you back. And because of that, now you're down $1,260. And now you're in a bind. And now you have to scramble and see who you can call. And you cannot call that person that you just gave $1,260 to. You may not have someone else to call after that. You may not be able to recover that money. But you gave it all to them. So this is an example of what I mean. If you did that, if I did that, I put myself in that situation. Now I'm disappointed. Now I'm upset. Now I'm angry. I was disappointed when they didn't give me the 10. I'm like, I thought we was better than it. Disappointed when they didn't give me the 50. $50, $60. Disappointed when they didn't give me the $200. How much ever I'm constantly giving them. Disappointed when they're not giving me the money back. But here I am again, giving them the money, not being realistic about the fact that they didn't pay the other money back. Not being realistic about the fact that they're not good money managers. Not being realistic about the fact that they don't have a good track record of keeping their word. I'm being unrealistic and I'm putting myself in that situation that now I'm in a stressful bind. I'm in a place where I'm going to have to borrow money. I'm in a place where I don't know how I'm going to make an end meet because I've given up so much money to a person who has shown me that they don't have the capacity to reciprocate that back. And I can't call them asking for no money because they called me and asked me for some money. So not only can you not help me, but you've let me down. You've disappointed me by not keeping your word, by not paying me back on return the money. And now you've allowed me to be in a certain kind of situation. Like, you see how our mind can think that? But in our reality, if you bring it back in, you allowed you to get in that situation. You knew they wasn't going to pay you back. You knew that it was a very high chance that you wouldn't get that money back. And you still allowed that money out of your hands. And now you have to struggle. Now you have to figure it out. And that could be very emotionally affecting because now that's what they could turn to other things because it started as disappointment, but now you're stressed. You're figuring it out. Now you can become angry about a lot of things because they're not paying me back. Now I can't do this. Now I can do that. What if your bills go unpaid now because you've done that? And now you're in therapy on the couch screaming about how you're disappointed. screaming about how you can't understand why people still disappointing you. They treat you like this. They don't pay you back. They don't. Why'd you give them the money? Why'd you give the money again? Why'd you give the money again? Why'd you get? Because you had this in your mind or in your heart, and like I said, even if you have good intentions of like forgiving the person, giving them another chance, letting them get better, you just want to help them because I got it bad. Of I know what it feels like to not have nobody call. I know what it feels like to feel like you're just trying to make ends meet. I knew what it feels like to not want to ask, getting up the courage to ask. And, I know what it feels like to be in some kind of situation. Or I'll sympathize and say, what if I was in that situation? And I need that for X, Y, and Z. And I had no one to call or call someone and they gave me the money. I know I'd pay it back. But I know they not. But because I know what it's like to not need it, I would still do it. So if I was in that situation, knowing me, I would still give the money out. And then I'd be upset and disappointed when they didn't pay me back. And then I've been put myself in a bind knowing that I have bills to pay, knowing that I have two children, knowing all these things, then I'd be upset and I'd be disappointed for the fourth, fifth, 27th time. But what was my part to play? I could have just said I don't have the money. But again, with that love, what would that backlash going to be? What would their response going to be? Are they going to give me anger, attitude, say I don't care about them, say I don't love them, say I don't do any of these things? Are they going to respond negatively? Am I going to not be able to handle watching them not have something? Even if I really don't have to give, am I going to be able to handle watching them do that? Or am I going to feel like, no, people who, if you love somebody, you give them your last. If you love, because those things that I put in my head. And it's not wrong to love someone enough that you give them your last, if that's your choice. But if you're going to give them your last, knowing that if you're in the same situation, they couldn't turn around and help you and then be upset or disappointed about it, you're putting yourself in that situation, especially if you've known it over and over and over and over again. And I had to learn the extreme hard way, y'all, in a lot of areas, not just the money, not just that as an example, not just with family. I had to learn that in so many ways to stop allowing people to disappoint me repetitively. Now, at least if you're going to disappoint me, you disappoint me in a new way. Get creative. Disappoint me in a way I haven't been disappointed before, so at least it could be the first time. But allowing you to disappoint me in the same exact way is crazy because I already know that. And the fact that I'm becoming numb to it is even crazier because that means I already expected, I anticipated, I know it, and I'm still allowing it. So once my therapist got me to realize all those steps and those spaces, we could work on what I was going to do. So if I was in that situation, for the example, my therapist would say, okay, Kiana, I understand your heart. I understand how you feel. I understand your reasons behind that. But what we're going to do is only lend out the amount of money we can stand to not receive back. So at that point, it became a gift. You're not looking to receive it back. Don't lend out money in amounts that you must have back, especially to someone that you know already has a track record who's not going to return it. So only give out what you can stand to lose, right? And when you do that, you're protecting yourself from the disappointment. If they don't give you back the $100, but you can stand to lose $100 and give them the $100, it's okay. You don't have to associate any type of feelings to that $100 if they don't give it back to you. But if you give them $1,000 and you need it back, you're probably going to have an effect, and that effect is going to affect your emotions, and you're going to add it on top of the last thing, and on top of the last thing, and on other top of the other disappointment. Because we're not, you know, we're not above being affected by this to any degree. Like we're all going to be disappointed in real ways for real reasons, whether people intend to or not. But if you're playing a part to the repetitiveness of your disappointments, it's time for you to stand up. Be okay with admitting that you have a part to play, accept that. Realize what part you have to play by sitting with yourself and going through your things and thinking through and taking inventory of these situations and circumstances where you keep feeling disappointed. And then you have to bust a move. You have to figure out, what are you going to do about it? Are you creating boundaries? Are you adjusting how you deal with people? Are you repositioning in life into positions in your life where they can't hold as much weight, that would cause you to be disappointed. Because a stranger can't disappoint me, baby. A stranger can't. That's why I say the people that hurt you the most are people that are closest to you, people that you love, because they have a connection to you in a way that a stranger does not. Only thing a stranger can do to me is make me have a little bit of road rage, like this much, because they be tripping on the road. I don't know why they be driving like that. But that's the only thing a stranger can do to me. A stranger cannot disappoint me because I have zero expectations for a stranger. I have zero expectations for a person who I don't know. I have zero expectations for a person who don't know me. The people that know me, the people that are supposed to love me, the people that, have the confidence and audacity to ask me for something should be able to do that back. The person who's supposed to love me, the person who says that they love me, the person that I'm in a relationship, the person that, is parenting me, the person that, is my best friend. Those people, they know me in a way, and we're supposed to have a level of relationship that I would expect for you to not hurt me in a certain kind of way. But I had to learn. I had to have realistic expectations. If a person has not, well, I stopped having expectations for what I did. I took a season in my life where I stopped having expectations for all people and I just observed. I took inventory of a person doing what they're going to do. I knew and I wrote down what I expected them to do if they were close to my life. And I wrote down what they actually did, whether, it was good or bad. And I just kind of, monitored it for a little while. And after that, I went back and took those sets of information or I took those observations and that information that I collected. And then I started to assess, okay, do you have this person in a proper position in your life? Or do you need to remove them down to a different position? Not that you don't love them the same, not that you have any issue with them, but are they misplaced in your life? Are they miscategorized in your life? Do you have them sitting in a seat that they don't belong in? Is the seat too high? You got them too high up and they need to be in a regular, little seat. You got them in floor seats. They need to be in section, you know, 115. They don't need to be on the floor. That's too close to the stage and that's too much. Do you need to have them in the nosebleeds? It's like, you know what, dog, I kick it with you when I kick it with you. I see you when I see you. But being locked in real close and tight, that's just not where we stand. Can I vent to you? Is that okay? Is that safe? Is that not? Because you're disappointing me every time I tell you something and you bring it back to me. Every time I tell you something, you're gossiping to other people about me. Every time I tell you something and we get into a disagreement and an argument, you're bringing back up the worst parts of my life that I felt safe enough to share with you. Your seat's too high. Your seat's too high. I show up for you every single time, no matter what time of day, no matter what the event, no matter the situation. You can't show up for me. The seat's too high. Bringing people back into a proper positioning will help you, because it helped me, minimize the disappointment. It would help you stop putting your same self back in that situation. Asking people for things that they are incapable of giving you, and then you're getting mad about it or getting disappointed and sad, and it's affecting your entire life of how you feel about you, how your mental stability is, how you're handling other people, how you feel like the quality of your life is going because your circle is constantly hurting you. Change the circle. Reassess the circle. Reassess the people that you have supporting you. Reassess who you're going to. And that's why I can tell y'all leaning into God is what helped me do all those things. Because I had to personally rework my measure, my rubric. I didn't know what I was holding people up to a rubric that didn't make sense. That did not just make sense for us as humans, but didn't make sense for me in my life, like what I needed, especially as you grow. As you grow and as you heal, I'm gonna tell you it's gonna get different, it's gonna get weird. Because what the old you allowed, the new you're not gonna allow. The environments the old you were in, you're not gonna feel comfortable in them as you're healing, as you're growing, as you're letting go of these things. So you're gonna need new spaces. As I was growing and learning to set boundaries, I was literally freaking out. And I feel like even my disappointment heightened because I felt like you made a change, girl. You made a change. I'm proud of you. And because they said it was you, or because I internalized that it was me, something about me that was causing me to keep getting disappointed, or something about how I was approaching the situation, how I was approaching people, how I was loving on people. You know, okay, you made these differences, you made these changes. They should change too. No, I kept thinking it was about them, and it wasn't because I can't control them. I had to learn how to worry about what I could control, which was me, which was my emotions, which was my boundaries, which was how I categorized them in my life. They can keep me up here and call me every time, and I probably still come through. But they're not my go-to to come through. And I'm gonna tell you right now, once you reassess someone's seat, you might possibly deal with the backlash of how they are not, very, very accepting of how their seat is changed and accepting of the change in the dynamic that you create, the boundaries that you create, but you have to stand on them because every time you don't stand on those boundaries, you're going to keep setting yourself up. And I seesawed and tug of war and everything with my boundaries at first. But I finally got settled with it when I was tired of getting disappointed when I made that realization that, Kiana, no one can disappoint you unless you give them the opportunity to disappoint you. They can fall short. They can not come through. They can do all these things, but the disappointment comes from what expectation you set with it. And if your expectations are too high, that's okay. I'm not telling you to lower your standards or your boundaries or anything. I'm telling you, set it accordingly. If it's wrong, too high, bring it to a respectable level. If it's too low, bring it up. If it's misplaced on people that don't have the capacity, pick it up. Take it to some people that can hold capacity. Take it to some people that can hold the capacity of who you are becoming. Take it to some people who can hold the weight of who you are now. Take it to some people who are also healing, who are also, respecting these things, whether they're going through it at the same time or they're already complete. You need to get in full blown alignment in all of those areas to minimize how you're getting disappointed, to cope with the fact that people are constantly disappointing you, to be able to also identify this disappointment and stop identifying it as all these other things or allowing it to get to all these other things because now you got to work through that. So if you start to get ahead of it and get a handle and a grip on it, you will keep it from getting way too far, way too crazy and beyond where it's a healthy measure for you. So to handle. So once I got a handle on that, y'all, it ain't still breezy, but it's manageable. I'm no longer disappointed every single day, multiple times a day. There's still situations and infractions and, incidents, but I'm not disappointed because I've properly set my expectations for people or I've taken away expectations completely. Like, babe, I'm gonna let you do what you're gonna do. I'm gonna let people. I'm gonna let them do what they're gonna do, handle the situation, how they're gonna handle it, and then I'm gonna come back and just deal with me. And I've also created boundaries and I stand on them now. And anytime I come across disappointment, I now have the tools to say, what part did you play? I bring back and I make sure that I'm good on situation to whether I need to alter, adjust, or I make sure that I didn't set myself up and it was a new thing, it was a new situation, or it was completely outside of me. I make those assessments so then I can know how to deal with it, then I can know how to handle it. And once you learn how to do those things, baby, you in disappointment, y'all ain't gonna be beefing no more. Y'all ain't gonna be beefing no more because you're gonna be in a place where you've minimized its effect on you. Not because it's not going to happen to you, because it's going to happen to all of us. But you've gotten to a point where you've minimized how heavily it's affecting you, right? And in that, I hope that that gives your life a level of peace that you have not had in such a long time. Because it gave me peace, baby. Once I stopped holding them people to unrealistic expectations, they stopped disappointing me. I was cool. I could go around people. I could hang with people. I could forgive people. I could do so much more. So I feel like for me personally, when I learned how to handle disappointment, learn how to manage disappointment with these same measures and same tools that I told you my therapist worked through with me, that I hope you decide to use in your life, it was so much easier for me to move beyond my disappointment, to stop allowing to feel like situations kept happening to me, but I started getting ahead and getting control over situations, getting control over how I responded and reacted to certain situations. It was a big, big level and part of me gaining emotional intelligence and emotional control because I learned how to handle disappointment. And I hope that if you didn't know how to handle disappointment or you didn't have any place of starting or weren't even aware that this was happening to you before this episode started, then now that we're at the end of the episode, that you have some tools that would help you start your journey on identifying and dealing with disappointment and starting to, see what decisions you're going to start to make on your journey to becoming your best self and handling disappointment in your life. And that is all I got for y'all today. I hope that something was said that encourages you and supports you along your journey. And if you like the content of this episode, or you feel like you know someone that it could help that's also dealing with that, I will please ask you to share with it. If you haven't subscribed to our channel, go ahead and do that. If you guys feel as if there should be a part 2 to this episode, or a deeper explanation of any part of it that you would like, comment below. I'm so willing to do that for you, because this podcast is for y'all, for us. It's not just for me and what I come up with, but I know that people deal with the same things, the same struggles. So I'm willing to talk about it so that we can build up a community around supporting each other through that, right? So if you don't have no community of people that you could talk with, you're not quite ready for therapy, you can't afford therapy, whatever it may be, I'm here with you, and I'm gonna be your baby unlicensed therapist to help you out until you are in a space where you can go and get the type of help that you need, that you can hopefully inspire and motivate to go ahead and take your situations back to God so that He can help you and help you grow. Because I started my situations with God. I didn't start with a therapist. And once I got to a certain place, that I felt that, God was revealing to me that therapy was a addition and not a replacement for him, then I was able to do both together. And my therapist actually is faith based, which was important for me because I wanted her to, give me biblical principles, direct me back to God the same way that I was trying to maintain my relationship with God and continue to build it while I was working through these things. So if you don't have that for yourself, you are very, very welcome to join the Chosen Shawties, and I will support you. You are very welcome to reach out to me about any one-on-one coaching so we can walk through kind of what you have going on, and I can support you individually through what you're working through, and individually through some of these processes that may be more specific and personal to your life. If you want to shop the look to any degree, you can always click on the link for the Amazon storefront. And if you want to start journaling out loud or shop any of the rest of our merch from the Shifting Your Atmosphere nonprofit, you are welcome to click the links for that in the description below. If you haven't followed us on social media, our Instagram is shifting.your.atmosphere, and our Facebook page is Shifting Your Atmosphere, and the TikTok, my personal TikTok is Styled by K Simone. My personal Instagram is Styled by K Simone. You can follow us on any of the platforms. Any updates about our podcast, any updates about the nonprofit or the brand, to hear about any of the events we may be popping up at as a vendor, and to hear about any of the new programs that we're starting to roll out from our nonprofit. And that's all I got for y'all today. So until the next episode.